Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I'm bringing you another malicious compliance Reddit video. In our first story, you want the exact amount, you get the exact amount. Let's jump right in. I was reminded of this story yesterday when my PS3 finally died. As evident, English is not my first language. In fact, it's not even my third, so please excuse any mistakes. When I was 13 or 14, I decided I wanted a PS3. My dad refused to buy me one, but my uncle made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He said that if I worked at his sweet shop for the 2 months of summer break, he would buy me a PS3 and some games in lieu of payment. For teenage me with no commitments, this seemed fantastic. While my uncle sells almost every type of Indian sweet and snack, from rasgullas to samosas to even dosas now, one kind of specialty snack he used to sell in his shop was known as a mini samosa. They're like samosas but smaller, about 3.5 to 4 centimeters in size. About 1/2286th of a football field for my American friends. They were sold by weight in sealed packs of 250 grams and 500 grams, as these were the most common amounts people bought. Making those packages turned out to be my job. You see, sometime between now and when my uncle started his business, he realized that 250 grams was roughly the weight of 28 mini samosas, and thus 56 were 500 grams. So instead of weighing each packet, I was told to just pack by counting individual items, which was easier and saved time. We also sold them individually for people who wanted larger or smaller or unusual amounts. This was also around the time when our government started airing customer awareness PSAs. Basically, just telling customers to beware of fraudulent business people. This is relevant. So, one particularly hot afternoon, it was just me and my uncle at the shop. In India, frequent power cuts were very common during the summers, and thus there were no fans or air conditioning running. Both tempers and temperatures were running high at the shop that day. It was then that the villain of our story, Mr. Karan, made his entry. He was a local resident and a regular. He seemed angry from the onset when he barged into the shop. He took a look at the fans and saw that they weren't running, then angrily picked up a 500-gram pack of samosas and asked, "How many samosas are in this thing?" "That's 500 grams," I said. "I said how many, not how much," Mr. Karan literally screamed. "Again, how many in this?" 56, I replied immediately, since, I packed them. "How can you be so sure? You didn't even count. You're trying to cheat me." Mr. Karan was now in full-scale Karen mode. "I demand you pack me 500 grams of those individual ones, and don't you dare cheat me again." I looked over at my uncle, wet with sweat, fanning himself with yesterday's newspaper. He slowly nodded. I beamed a huge smile. "Sure, sir. Whatever you want." So I took a bag, picked up some samosas, and started putting them on the balance. I kept counting samosas as I put them in until there were a little over 500 grams. Then I removed the last samosa, and the weight fell below 500. Now, keeping eye contact with Mr. Karan, I crushed the samosa and started putting its powdery remains in the bag until it was exactly 500 grams. But wait, there's more. Mr. Karan apparently didn't seem to mind powdered samosa, but instead asked smugly, "So, how many samosas now?" 48, I claimed triumphantly. You see, sometime in the past, my uncle's old chef retired, and the new chef made samosas with a little bit more filling in them. They looked the same size on the outside and only weighed a couple grams more each, and since he made them in bulk and also sold to other shops in the area, the price wasn't too much of an issue, so my uncle let it slide. But those couple grams added up on mass orders, and that is what Mr. Karan found out the hard way. He looked sheepishly at the pre-packed samosas and then at his own package and asked if he could buy the former instead. No, My nephew made a package specially for you at your request. So that is what you have to buy, my uncle finally spoke. Mr. Karan silently took his pack, paid, and left. He was a lot more respectful during his subsequent visits. Story number 2. I adhered to the sickness policy to the letter. In the early 2000s, I worked in the United Kingdom for a huge American insurance company. I managed a team of 10 to 12 administrators. The job was dull, the people were mainly great, and it was a steady place to work. Now, with this being a US company, the benefits package was poor compared to most UK rivals. Things like paid annual leave and paid sickness were the statutory minimum it was legal to give in the UK. I had this guy join my team who I shall call Dan. Dan was about 22 or 23, a bit of a plodder, definitely just there until he could find something better, and I couldn't blame him. One Monday, when he'd been there about 3 months, he just didn't show up for work in the morning. I was initially unconcerned, but when he hadn't called or shown up 45 minutes later, I started looking for his home phone number to check he was okay. Right then, my phone rang and it was Dan. He told me on the Friday night he had gone out with friends and got really drunk. When he got home, he decided to deep fry some chips on the stove. He fell asleep, and when he woke up, the pan was on fire on the stove, black smoke billowing everywhere. Now, I think I would have just run, but as he was pretty drunk, he decided to open the kitchen window in his apartment and throw the fiery pan outside. He managed to get boiling hot fat all over his dominant hand. Fat spilled all over and caught fire, so he ran and called the fire service. On the way out, he grabbed his wallet, coat, and 3 CDs. Along with the clothes he had on, this was all that survived. He was really upset and told me he had no insurance for his possessions. He was going to be off sick for some weeks. The doctors thought he may need a skin graft on his hand. I told him to leave things with me. I would sort stuff out at work and would call him later. I called our local HR team, who said there was very little they could do due to his length of service. He had only 6 paid sick days left. He had taken a few already. I was shocked. I asked if we could bend the rules. Nope. Is there a fund we could donate something to him from? No. Feeling this was really mean, I called HR in our head office and got the same answers. Very shortly afterwards, I got a call from our local HR manager, Claire, who was usually nice with me. We were on some of the same staff committees together. But today, she wanted to know why I had tried to go over her head. Yada yada yada. She said that the sickness policy was clear, and I had to follow it to the letter. Did I understand? You bet I did. Cue malicious compliance. I filled in all the paperwork to send to Claire, some of it authorizing the deduction of Dan's pay as he would exceed his sickness benefit that month. I think Claire was surprised I had rolled over so easily. I wasn't known for that. About an hour later, I sent her an email asking her to proofread a poster I had created to go on one of our committee notice boards. It was all about Dan and what had happened to him, and suggested ways the different teams could raise some money to help him out, as he had nothing and unfortunately wasn't entitled to any sick pay. I immediately got an email from Claire saying, "Please don't progress this any further just now." Half an hour later or so, she called to let me know they were granting 3 months paid sickness leave initially and a goodwill payment of £5,000 on behalf of the company to help him get back on his feet. Dan was amazed at the magic I'd worked. On the other hand, Claire was pretty frosty with me for about 6 weeks. This is John from Slashbash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe. I would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.